What is the Federal Reserve? Everyone has probably heard of it at some point in their life. The name is on top of every dollar bill in the United States. But what is behind this shadowy organization? What do they control? Are they the Illuminati? Are the Freemasons involved? No. They just make sure the economy runs smoothly. And here's how. This is the Federal Reserve System. It is made up of 4 parts. The Board of Governors, the 12 Reserve Banks, the 12 Boards of Directors, and the Open Market Committee. The Board of Governors is the highest up in the chain of command. The 7 members it is made up of are nominated by the President of the United States and confirmed by the Senate. Have you ever heard of Ben Bernanke? He's the chairman of the board. Then we have the Reserve Banks. They each have a president and a board of directors, as well as the staff necessary to run them. The Board of Governors directs the actions of the Reserve Banks. I will leave their functions mysterious for now. After that we have the Boards of Directors. They run the daily operations of the Federal Reserve Banks. The Board of Governors appoints the Class A members. They represent banks in the region. Class B and C members are appointed by the banks in the district themselves. There are 3 members for each class, making each Board of Directors consist of 9 people, in case you forgot how to do the math. The last part is the Open Market Committee. This is the group that decides the actions and the policies of the Fed banks, also called monetary policy. The Federal Open Market Committee, also the FOMC, is made up of all 7 members of the Board of Governors plus 5 of the Fed bank presidents. The presidents rotate every year, except for the president of the New York Fed, because he's special. Yeah. The monetary policy that they decide on consists of 3 parts: the discount rate, the reserve requirement, and open market operations. The reserve requirement is how much a bank must keep in reserve out of their liabilities. That is, the ratio of money they must have available for their customers to the amount they are liable for having. The discount rate is the interest rate on Fed bank loans. This greatly affects the flow of money in the economy. The lower the rate, the more likely loans will be taken out. And then we have open market operations. Open market operations are used to change the volume and flow of money in the economy. Here's the awful analogy that I came up with. The FOMC is doing something like adding water to or draining water from a fish tank. Adding too much water or taking too much water has major effects on the fish. Too little water, the fish die. Too much water, and my analogy breaks, ignore that, but let's say the fish die if there's too much water. The same is so for the economy. So it is important to keep it within a tight margin. The main tool used by the FOMC is affecting the amount of reserves in the banking system by buying or selling securities. If buying, the amount in banking reserves goes up, generally making it easier for banks to loan money, and thus increasing the flow of money in the system. If selling, the amount of reserves goes down, making banks more careful of their money and decreasing the flow of credit in the system. They both have their advantages at times. Excuse my horrendous drawing and bad analogy. So, there are a lot of separate Federal Reserve Banks in the U.S. What do they do, you may ask? Good question, you. The functions of a Fed bank are split up into 4 categories: monetary policy, regulation, government services, and plain old services. Their role in monetary policy consists of examining the market and reporting on what they find, participating in the Open Market Committee, and changing the discount rate. Oh boy. A Fed bank also helps regulate the banks of its region by doing inspections of state-chartered member banks, just banks using the Fed, bank holding companies, these are companies that own banks but don't necessarily do banking themselves, and foreign bank offices in the U.S. The Fed banks also perform a number of incredibly joyful roles for the government, like taxes. They hold the money from taxes for the Treasury. Not to mention savings bonds, heavy-duty savings bonds. They also do a lot of things you probably thought your bank did. They process checks. This is why there are those numbers at the bottom of checks, so the money can be routed to the right account. They do wire transfers, those things that are often associated with the Nigerian princes offering you millions upon millions of dollars for no reason.